So today I'm going to break down my probably most weirdest video I've ever made in my life, and that is isolation insanity. Bloody hell.
What's the matter with you?
Thought I had something.
You're going fucking mad, mate.
So I think during lockdown, a lot of people just went a bit mental, and I certainly went a bit mental for sure. Like, I think that's partly why this idea really came to life, and I wanted to kind of show what was going on in my head during COVID, during lockdown.
Oh, self-isolation, mate. It's doing my nutting.
Obviously, the whole thing is based on lockdown. Like, if you watch the intro kind of pulls us into this scene where we're in the office and it's all a little bit weird, it's all a bit apocalyptic, you know, and something's not quite right, you know. The whole point was to give the feeling that something isn't quite right, and obviously we have the subtitles up there telling us kind of timestamps, location stamps, just kind of introing us to the scene, you know. Now, something that a lot of like YouTubers don't really talk about is like their story development, where they get their ideas from, how that they come up with developing their story from the off and building kind of tension in their stories and that kind of stuff. And that's something that I want to go over a little bit more in this video. So hopefully you guys can appreciate that and enjoy it. So sit back, you know, get the old popcorn, do what you want. Obviously there's two different characters in this video. We've got me and me, but there's two different characters. When you watch the video, you'll notice that the two characters have got very, very different personalities. And I do feel like they're my two different personalities. So I guess the main character in this piece was essentially an expression of like my frustration of not being able to go out, kind of being stuck indoors, just not being able to live kind of the freedom that we usually have in life, you know. And this character was basically the way that I expressed that. And then we've obviously got the other version of me, which is obviously a bit of a bad influence, just wants to have a bit of fun, kind of chilled out. Because I did kind of go through two stages. Like, I was really kind of upset and like bored and depressed, and I felt like I couldn't do the things that I know I'm capable of doing. But at the same time, I was like, look, mate, it is what it is. You've got to kind of just get on with it, and just relax, and you can't change any of this, you know. So yeah, they were the kind of two different people, and I definitely preferred obviously playing the funny geezer. Like, you know, you've got to think about things lightheartedly, and I think that character really expressed that way that I was feeling. So it was a nice way to kind of differentiate the two ways that I was feeling, and then actually put them in the same scene kind of combatively. And I just thought it was quite funny, you know. After making this video, I massively appreciate what actors go through. Obviously, I already appreciated what they've done anyway, because I've done a lot with actors and athletes, that kind of stuff. But the hard thing for me was I had to play these two people, be in them two different headspaces, but also worry about the technical stuff, like the camera. Is the camera rolling? Like, is my audio levels peaking? Like, am I still recording on my audio? Because I recorded two separate tracks. And I had to do all of this stuff while recording it as well, and mate, like, that is not bloody easy. Now, funnily enough, I did actually have to make like a storyboard for this piece. It wasn't necessarily so that I could tell the direction that the story was going in. It was more of just like a technical floor plan, so that I knew how am I going to shoot it, how am I going to light it, because in the office we only have one light source, and that is the back window, and that back window is essentially the only light source in this entire scene, you know. So I had to make sure wherever I had done my shot, the light was only coming from that particular source. And then when we was on the floor, obviously I lit it myself. I had to kind of emulate the light coming from that window from the distances that the two characters are laying in, you know, making sure that the light's coming from the right side, the right colour, making sure that the light is hard and soft enough to actually match that light. And because the light dome was a little bit big, the light was actually too soft. Because if you think about where the characters are actually laying, that window would actually give quite a hard light. Because it's so far away, the light and the shadows will be quite hard on the face. So I tried really hard to see how the actual natural light from the window fell on my face, and then tried to emulate that with my own light. Now, the reason I wanted to use my own lighting and not the natural lighting from the window is because obviously throughout the day things change. I want to make sure that I've got full creative control over my light, making sure that the lighting doesn't change, because if I've got two separate scenes, I'm shooting one scene and the sun is like super harsh, then we cut back to the other scene and the sun's gone in and it's all a bit gloomy. It's like, Where's the continuity there? So I had to make sure that I had the same light, same continuity, and make sure that I moved the light from a distance away from each character to make sure that it really stayed consistent, you know. Now I did actually add a little bit of bounce so that I bounced back into one of the characters' face just to make sure that it, you know, stayed a little bit even, didn't look too harsh, because I actually wanted one of the characters to look more harsh. Obviously the devil, I don't know what to call him, like what do you call that version of me, like the nutty geezer. The nutty geezer, I really wanted to have like a bit more of like a dramatic, you know, dark, contrasty look about him, because, you know, it kind of reflected the character a little bit more edgy, you know, compared to the other character who I wanted to keep a little bit more flat, little bit softer, so that you could see both sides of his face. So to shoot the video, I shot it with the Blackmagic 6K, and I used the little Canon 50mm 1.8. That is probably the cheapest lens on the planet that you can buy, and it done a great job, you know. I didn't want anything super sharp, I wanted to keep it kind of natural, and the room and the whole scene was a little bit musky and a bit dirty, and that particular lens, which is actually what you're watching this on right now, it's not super sharp, but it does allow you to get a decent amount of low light and a nice little bit of bokeh when you want it, so that worked out perfectly for this scene. Now I stuck the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera on a ball head on the top of my light stand, and then I kind of leant the light stand over so that it could be over me, because I didn't actually have a knuckle and an extra bloody C-stand arm to chuck it over the top of me. I had to lean the light stand over and then put my table over the leg so that it didn't fall over. It was a little bit dodgy, I'm not gonna lie. I could have, you know, probably decapitated myself, which wouldn't have been great, you know, because this video here wouldn't have been made. Now, one thing I wanted to make sure that I could do was make sure that the camera was fully powered, no batteries in it, because I want to focus on what I'm doing. I want to make sure that I can focus on being the character, being in the moment, you know, talking about what I want to say, because when you actually watch it, it's quite like, I wanted to make people feel like they're in it with me, like they were there watching that conversation happen.
Next up, what does bosh mean? Bosh. 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 Bosh.
To be able to do that, the performance needs to be on point, you know, and I'm not a bloody actor. So the camera had AC power in it, so I didn't have to worry about that. The mic was simply just attached to that stand along with my monitor so that I could, you know, make sure that we're still rolling, make sure that everything's right framing. And then I actually framed out on the floor with tape to see where I could actually be, to see the edges of my frame, because that just made it a lot easier for me to position myself and then make sure that I was keeping continuity the whole time. Now, when it comes to the script, I didn't have a script as such. I essentially just shot the nutty geezer, the devil, in grey first, and then whatever kind of rolled off the tongue, because I kind of got myself in that headspace and just started talking like the way I would be if maybe I've had a few beers or something. And then I essentially played back that audio to the other guy, and then answered every question, every little niggle, little response, little bit of banter that we had. I responded to it in the way that I would respond to it, you know. So that allowed me to be in the headspace of each character at each particular time, if that makes sense. So I was like physically replying to something I actually said because I heard it. I just played it on my laptop next to me and then replied to it as if there was someone there.
Advice for someone who's looking to start a YouTube channel. Mate, I swear, every YouTuber has the exact same answer to this question.
Now, a huge kind of like driving force for the vibe and the whole feel of this thing was essentially the music. Now, if you notice in the start, I kind of have this build-up tension scene where we're setting the scene where basically the outside world is like on fire. Like people are bloody dying in the streets. We've got, you know, like bloody ambulances, police, people shooting each other, you know, like apocalyptic style stuff. And then I'm just in here in this kind of like safe kind of area. Like, I don't know what it is. Like the character, I wanted them to be aware of what's going on outside in the outside world, but at the same time make them look like they're absolutely fucking insane, you know, because they're just in here listening to music, just, you know, kind of lost their mind, locked in this box while everything's going mad outside. And I think at the start, that kind of build up of sound effects, just the cutaways that we got, kind of just building the scene with these little niggles, little elements of visuals that kind of set the tone, set the scene from the off, and the music that comes in, that we listen on the headphones, so we're in that guy's headspace at this point, and then when that music drops, we're in the room, you know. The kind of way that I wanted it to feel was we were observing at the start. We was observing while all of this kind of sound effects, it's all a little bit weird, and then as soon as we kind of cut into that kind of music scene, we're then we are the character at that point. So at first we was observing, next we're an actual character in the scene with the actual subject. So that was what I wanted to do with the audio, and essentially the audio does that. The audio really allows you to feel certain things instead of just like see certain things, if that makes sense. So the audio is a huge driving force for this piece. So eventually when kind of the main character kind of laid back, took the headphones off, you'll notice that the music still played in the background, but I basically put like a low pass filter on the audio, and I kept that audio running all the way throughout this video, all the way until the end.
It's basically a no budget film as well, so yeah, I'm pretty proud of that one. Yeah, we all love a short film, mate, love it. Yeah, and the final shot's probably my favourite shot I've ever done, so maybe we should recreate that shot one day. Yeah, mate.
For me, that just allowed the tension to break and just essentially create a vibe in the room. It kind of sounded like there was a party or music or chaos going on outside of where we were.
Yeah.
And it essentially just aided that feeling of these characters are in this box going bloody mental and the outside world is going absolutely crazy. So the music actually aided that vibe. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking like, where did I kind of get the idea for this like vibe? And I was scrolling through Instagram and I found out where I think I might have got the inspiration from. So I follow like a lot of techno pages on Instagram, like Techno and Chill, Techno Blazer, kind of, you know, all of these basically music, house, techno kind of pages. And every so often they post this like kind of cartoony style scene, which is basically just a meme, and it's basically like the world outside is kind of going mad, but these people that are listening to this music, this progressive beat that is kind of going on in their scene, just allows the situation to feel vibey. Like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I think that's where I kind of got the inspiration from. Just these little cartoony techno bits where we've got this progressive beat and it just creates kind of a relaxed vibe because there's no up and down tension. It's just a constant progression of a beat, which is what house and techno music is essentially. So yeah, I think that's where I got the inspiration from that from. So whoever makes them, I'm going to try and find out who actually did, because I think you might have been the person who inspired this vibe. So as the video goes on, we kind of realise that this isn't like a short film piece. This is actually a bloody YouTube Q&A, you know? So obviously I asked the first question to myself, and then it kind of rolls into this Q&A scene.
Hold on. Weren't you meant to do a Q&A this week? Oh yeah. Yeah, I put the questions out on Instagram. Well, why don't we do it now then? I'll get the phone out.
It doesn't really feel like a Q&A because there's just like a conversation going on the whole time, and you just essentially feel like you're sitting in on a conversation, and that was kind of what I wanted the vibe to feel like. And we can kind of get the headspace that these two characters are in because of the conversation, and the whole conversation just allows us to see that these two characters have clearly been living with each other in my head for like the last few months. And yeah, it kind of shows that relationship between kind of someone who's a little bit fed up and someone who just doesn't really care and is like, yeah, man, like there's nothing we can do about this. And I think the conversation as it flows, kind of you really get to find out a little bit about them two characters. Now, as the video goes on, you'll notice that I actually managed to sneak in like a sponsored read in there. Now, I am so inspired by people that do like amazing creative sponsored reads. To give you an example, like Make Art Now, Josh Yo, like I think his sponsored reads, some of them are just so creative, so cool. And obviously sponsored reads were never a thing, you know, like just because YouTube's kind of come about, and I really kind of felt compelled to make this sponsored read like really cool, really like slick and creative. And I was so happy with how that particular read came out.
Yeah, mate, I'm gonna give DJing a bit of a go, you know. I've actually done a few of them classes on Skillshare, you know, and it's pretty sick. Skillshare? What's that? You don't know what Skillshare is? It's basically this like online learning platform.
I think nowadays, like audiences, we're so used to seeing sponsored reads, and when someone does it creatively, I think it kind of takes away from the sponsored read, and it makes you ask questions like, oh, am I actually watching a sponsored read, or is this just part of the video? Like, it kind of makes you ask questions, and that is part of the creative, you know. Part of the creative is like making people ask questions about what they're watching.
Hold on a sec. Was that a bloody sponsor? Yeah. Was it obvious?
Mate. I get really inspired by people that do like mad cool sponsored breeds. I'm like, whoa, that's like as good as watching a short film for me, you know. I don't know why. I think it's when people trick me, when I'm like, damn it, mate, they got me there, you know. Like, I love that. So I have a little folder on my YouTube page where I see like a mad good sponsored breed. I'll add it in there and I'll be like, yeah, that's sick. So when it came to the shots where there was 2 people in the same frame, really, really simple, you know, traditional style. Stick the camera on a tripod, shoot the scene, shoot it twice, you in one position, you in the other position, and then just cut it in the frame, you know, get your opacity tool, mask it out. And that worked out perfectly for this scene because I managed to close up the window at the back and then use my own light so that I had complete control over the light of the scene. Because if you've got 2 different lighting situations, that kind of masking of that same shot isn't going to work, you know, because the lighting's going to differ in both shots. You need to make sure that you've got complete control over lighting when you're going to kind of do like a overlay of a shot with 2 separate scenes in it. It's quite interesting how like you can literally take one shot, one essentially establishing shot of 2 people in the frame, then you're just on close-ups the whole time because you don't essentially need to pull back out. Like the audience know the situation, they know the layout of the room at this point, and they know the 2 people that are there. And there's only one shot where you see that there's 2 people in the frame. I just didn't feel like the audience needed to see again 2 people in the frame because I wanted to make out that this geezer was in this other guy's head, like he's doubled up in his head and he's going absolutely bloody mental. And then obviously the very final shot of the video where we pull out, we've got this one guy laying on the floor. This is the big reveal that all of this crap that's going on is all in this guy's head, you know.
Now here we go, last question. How are you getting on in self-isolation? Well, if you can't already tell, I'm stuck with this twat and I'm losing my bloody mind.
Held on to that moment until right at the end to show the audience that I didn't want to kind of open it up and show that there's only actually one person laying there. I wanted to open up right at the end so we kind of go, right, there we go, nail in the coffin. We know that this guy's going bloody mental because throughout you don't actually know if there's 2 people really there or not. And then at the end, you know, we give it away. So I think that's really important. If you kind of hold intentions until the end, like asking questions, getting people to question if it's really happening, yes or no. But the funny thing is I actually kept the beer bottle there. So, you know. So realistically, when I look at this actual piece, I just think like, if you've got a feeling, an idea for a video or whatever, just go and do it, man. Like try and express that feeling through video. Like that's what we do. Like we're videographers, we're filmmakers. And this situation, obviously lockdown was a massively different new scenario and it made me feel a bit anxious, a bit weird, a bit like I was going bloody mental and all of these different kind of emotions. And I thought, yeah, like I feel like I can tell this and channel all of these feelings into a video. And I do think that it's quite important that you follow your own feelings and not like not watch other people's content and kind of like make it about that. Like everyone's bit of content that they've made is about a feeling or a situation or a scene that they've seen or felt. And that video was definitely like a feeling that I felt and I wanted to put that into a video. So I think if any of you guys are feeling a certain way and you want to tell a story, you've got a feeling, that you've got a vibe, a scene that you want to tell, just bloody do it, mate. Because like it's your feeling, like no one else can replicate that other than you. So I think it's really cool and it's fun to be unique to yourself and a feeling that you've got, because not everyone feels the same feelings that you do. I didn't mean for the end of this video to get bare cheesy, but I genuinely do believe that, and I don't think a lot of people have got confidence in their own ideas and their own thoughts and feelings that they can make a video about it. They think, oh, who's going to care about my idea or my feeling or the way that I see this situation? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters that you have pursued the creation of that feeling in video form. If you're a videographer or filmmaker, you know, if you're an artist, bloody draw it, mate, paint it, whatever. Like, that's cool. Essentially, a director, all that they're trying to do is display a feeling, an emotion, a story. And I think that you lot should display yours. You know, that's what we're here for. That's what I feel like I've been put here for. So, yeah, the end of this video just got bare weird. Anyway, people, thanks so much for watching. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that this kind of video gives you a bit of a breakdown to see how, like, some certain things are shot, kind of ideas, because I think the ideas kind of things don't really get talked about that much. And if I've got a film that really did take a lot of thought and a lot of, you know, emotional energy, I want to make videos about them now. I want to make sure that people understand kind of what was going on in my head when I made it, not, or what was the lighting, what was the camera you used, lens, like none of that crap bloody matters. It's all about the vibe, the performance, what's in the frame, not how you're making the frame, you know. And obviously the audio is a massive thing. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, people, and I'll be catching you lot in the next one, mate. Bye.